The offseason can be a little overwhelming in franchise mode, and in this video, I'm going to give you a guide to each of the different steps and phases of the offseason. From contracts to free agency to arbitration, all of it's going to be in this video, and I'll put timestamps in the description to help guide you along. If you find this video helpful, please drop a like and also check out my channel. I've got a bunch of rebuilds and other guides on there that you might enjoy. Thanks. So I've got the Yankees here, and we just lost in the ALCS to the Mariners in 7 games. And before I even get into the offseason, before I even sim to the offseason, there's 2 things that I want to show you. The first thing is going to be your settings up here in the top right. So what you have to do in the offseason is going to be dependent on these mode-specific settings. You can see that I have manual for pretty much everything except for injury management. That is not part of the offseason. I just find that to be kind of annoying during the season. I let the CPU decide what to do with the injured list. But everything else I've got set as manual. So for example, in free agency, I'm going to choose who goes on my board and what kind of deals I offer them. If I had it on auto, the CPU would look at your team and your depth chart and make its best decision for you. That's the same thing with like contracts and trades and management. Some of these are more for in-season, but these ones down towards the bottom are more for the off-season. So that's one thing before the offseason goes in. Decide how you want to set that up. The other thing that I would recommend before you go to the offseason is to take a look at your players. How did they perform? Just to get a general idea. So obviously we came up just a little bit short of the postseason. And because we're in the postseason, it has removed the stats for my players. But if I just go in and kind of take a look at how the guys did, looks like Bellinger had almost a 900 OPS. Ahmed Rosario had a 600 OPS, so he did not have a very good year. And I'm just going to kind of go through. Obviously, he did better in the postseason. That's why he's up there. But I would just kind of go through and see who I think did well in the regular season. Jazz, 753, maybe a little disappointing. And I would do the same thing for the pitchers. I would go through my pitchers, and I would just kind of take a look at how they did. So Will Warren had a nice rookie season with a 3.92, so we might want to make a decision with him. How about Carlos Rodon, one of our top-of-the-line pitchers, 183 innings, 3.83 ERA, pretty good. So this is going to just give you an idea. Typically, you want to do this before you go to the playoffs, so you can look through it a little more easily, but this is where I would start before you even get into anything that I'm about to get into. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and sim to the offseason. We'll get through the rest of the playoffs. The Mariners win this World Series. Going to clear out all of these stats, and it looks like we're going to need to hire some coaches, and it's letting us know that the offseason is about to begin. Show us who's retired. Kenta Maeda has retired, and now we're going to get into the meat of this here. So free agency has not started yet. There's a little grace period here, 6 days that you have before we get to the free agency period, and that's when a lot of other stuff is going to open up. But there's 2 things you can do right away. First is review your staff, and it looks like we need a manager and a hitting coach. So it looks like Aaron Boone is no longer our manager here. So you want to look and find managers that have walks per 9, plus in walks per 9, and plus in contact or power. So this is a great option right here. CJ Simos gives you hits per 9 and walks per 9, the 2 best pitching stats, as well as some power and some reaction. I'm just going to make him an offer. I like to set it and forget it. So I go, extra years. I mean, I've even gone, 6, 7, 8 years because I don't want to worry about this every offseason. And I'll typically just bump it up a little bit because I don't want to spend too much time here on this screen. And it's the same thing for all the different coaches here, hitting coaches, pitching coaches. They just affect different things. So pitching coaches will give you plus or minus in pitching only stats. And then, for example, first base coaches are more focused on defense, speed, and so forth. So after you get your coaches figured out, then you want to take a look at exclusive free agent negotiations. So you've got a period here where before these guys go to free agency, you can decide a couple things that you might want to do with them. So 2 options. Option number 1 is I can offer Luke Weaver a contract if I want to just go ahead and make him an offer. And I might want to do this if I really want him to come back. And if we take a look at his stats, he was 43-6 in his save opportunities, 3.24 ERA. You might, if you can go as in-depth as you want, 9.26 Ks per 9, not as good as last year, but still pretty elite. And so let's say I really want to bring Luke Weaver back and I don't want him to go to free agency. I can offer him, so it's immediately showing me what he wants, a 2-year, 20.4. That's kind of like the recommended salary for him. However, Luke is probably going to opt to go to free agency if I just give him kind of the baseline salary. So if you actually want to get an exclusive free agent, you're probably going to have to overpay him. I don't know if you need to quite max out the green bar on the right side over there. You can see his interest level going up and down. But you're going to need to go up pretty high. So I'm going to go to 2 years, 21.5, and we'll see what he decides to do. Now, the other thing you can do is offer a qualifying offer, and part of the reason I took the Yankees is to give you a real-life example here. Trent Grisham was offered a qualifying offer this past offseason, and he accepted it. So what a qualifying offer is, if you see the action here, what it tells you is a qualifying offer is a one-year deal, and it's $21.9 million this year. The amount is going to be the average of the 125 highest paid players. So you have no flexibility. A one-year, $21.9 million deal. Not every player is eligible for a qualifying offer, but in this case, Trent is. And if I give this qualifying offer to him and he accepts it, he just takes the deal, no problem. If he declines it, we will get draft pick compensation if he signs with another team. It's somewhere between picks 30 and 50, right around there. So you get another, first or second round type pick. So there can be, it's rare, but there can be some circumstances where this is good. And since Trent did get a qualifying offer in real life, I'm going to tender him a qualifying offer here in this example. So you can see he has until November 13th to accept this, which means there's going to be a small period in there where he's also going to be open to free agency before he has to decide whether he wants this or not. So if you want to get an exclusive free agent, you probably need to overpay him. Another option is a qualifying offer. You could also, let's say you want Ryan Yarbrough to come back, but you're not too upset if he doesn't come back. If you just want to give him a one-year offer and just put, lowball him a little bit, it can't really hurt you if you want to bring him back, so you can do that too. The rest of these guys I'm just going to let go for now. So that is phase one of the offseason. Let's go ahead and sim to the next phase. Okay, so this is where the meat of the offseason begins. This is where it starts to get kind of overwhelming. So there's really 5 different things that we now need to take a look at: the 40-man, arbitration, contracts, free agency, and trades. So I'm going to go one by one here, starting with the 40-man roster. The 40-man roster is essentially the guys that are either in the majors or players in the minors that you wanted to keep, or they're close to the majors, or you wanted to prevent them from going to the Rule 5 draft. So you see what it says up there towards the top. Best players you could lose in the Rule 5 draft. It's listing it out there. For some reason, Garrett Cole's here. He definitely should not be, but we'll take a look at some more examples here. So if I click into the 40-man roster here, you can see that right now it's sorted by overall. If I go ahead and sort it by Rule 5 eligible, so that means yes. If it's yes, that means the player's not on your 40-man, and if you don't add them to it, they will be going to the Rule 5 draft, which we'll talk about later on. So I'm just going to add Garrett Cole right now because I don't know why he was not on the 40-man, but let's take a look at some other examples, like maybe a Yerry De Los Santos. So he's 28 years old, he was in the minors this year, and it looks like he had a really good year, and he has nice stats. Good clutch, good walks per 9, home runs per 9. This might be a guy that I could see playing for us next season, but if I don't add him to the 40-man, he's probably going to get picked up by another team. And there's a lot of good things here on his contract page. He has all of his minor league options, so even if I don't bring him up to the show next year, I can option him back down to the minors and hold on to him for another year. There's a lot of good stuff here. Yerry would probably be a guy I want to protect. If you look in the top right in that kind of white box with MLB AAA, I have 22 plus 13 plus 1. I have 36 guys currently on the 40-man. So I have room for 4 unless I get rid of some guys who are currently on the 40-man or not renew their contracts, for example. So for Yerry, for this example, I'm going to go ahead and add him to the 40-man roster. And this means next year he is going to get a league minimum salary of $780,000 because he is currently under renewable, and you can see that he has 5 years of team control left. So that's probably a term you'll hear me say a couple of times in this video. That's because he has 2 years on a renewable contract and 3 years of arbitration. So he's under the Yankees' control for 5 years, and we can choose what we want to do. If we want to trade him, give him a long-term deal, whatever you want to do, it's up to us. He's not a free agent. Now, on the flip side, Christopher Familia here is 62 overall with deep potential. He's also Rule 5 eligible and not on our 40-man, but this is not a guy I feel like I need to keep. I could probably go and sign a free agent that does not need to be on my 40-man, that another team didn't sign, and I can just let this guy go. He's not super valuable to me, so I'm not going to add him to the 40-man. And you can see there's a lot of guys who I probably would not add, a bunch of 50 overall deep potential type players here who probably would just be let go. So before I wrap this section up here, you have to manage your 40-man. So you really only want guys on your 40-man that are either playing in the majors right now or might come up if there's an injury or are, close to being in the show. Let's say this is a tough one. Manny Cedeno here, 63 overall with B potential, but he's only 19. He probably shouldn't be here, but because he is, this might be a guy I want to protect because he's going to develop within a season or two with high B potential, but it's risky. You can also let him go to the Rule 5. He's not going to impact your team in the next couple of seasons. And as I look here, there's some guys on the 40-man that I probably will not renew their contract. Like Andrew Landry is on the 40-man with deep potential and 61 overall. I don't need him on the 40-man. He's not going to play for me. So if I were to not renew his contract and just let him go, that'll give me room to bring another guy into the 40-man. So in this case, for this video, I will add Manny Cedeno to the 40-man roster. Okay, so that's the things you want to keep in mind for the 40-man roster. And like I said, we'll get to the Rule 5 draft in a little bit. Next up is arbitration, and what arbitration is after a player has 3 years of MLB service time, or in some cases 2 if they're a higher level player, they go into this arbitration period where they have, let me get Volpe here, they've got 3 years of arbitration, so 26, 27, 28. Volpe's still under team control, but he is under arbitration. What this means is that the team and Volpe are going to kind of be like in a courtroom almost, negotiating, hey, my name's Anthony Volpe. I think I'm really good. You owe me $12 million next year. And on the other side, no, I think we only owe you $8 million because you are yippee on defense. And they kind of argue it back and forth. There's none of that in this game. You don't have to worry about that. So looking at Volpe, he had a okay year. Looks like he still needs to develop on the offensive side. Defensively, he's projecting pretty well. So I don't really want to give him a long-term deal just yet. He's also got all of his minor league options. So if he's playing bad, I could option him to the minors or trade him. So I just want to give him a 1-year arbitration deal. And now you're wondering, well, how much do I offer him? So the way you can figure that out is by clicking on make an offer. This is not arbitration. This is an actual contract. And if I go down to 1 year, you can see the salary guide is $6.4 million. So now that I know that he's looking for $6.4 million, I'm going to go back and offer him arbitration, but I'm going to offer him less than that. And I'll explain why just in a second here. I'm going to offer him, let's say, $6 million. So a little bit less than, the estimated amount that he is asking for or deserves. So now that I've offered him arbitration, he's not going to leave my team. It's going to go to the arbitration period, and we might win and pay him $6 million, or he might win that argument and get paid $7 million. And that's going to happen in the background. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do, because I want to kind of hedge my risk and not open it up to make him earn $7 million next year, I'm going to go ahead and also offer him a contract for what he wants, $6.4 million. Right, so he's been offered arbitration at $6 million, but I've also offered him a contract at $6.4. He's probably more likely to take that $6.4 million contract, and then there's no uncertainty about what he's going to get paid next year. So that's how I manage most of the arbitration guys. But let's say there's somebody that I want to extend long term, and let's say it's Jazz Chisholm. He's 28 years old. He's in his last year of arbitration. So he would become a free agent next year. Obviously, we would get exclusive free agent rights with him. But let's say I wanted to extend him, a few years into his free agency. So this is an opportunity where I could make an offer, and the game is recommending that I offer him 5 years at $20.2 million. I think that's fine. Let's see what, I'll roughly estimate. We'll get into this a little more later, but let's see how he did. So he put up 2.4 WAR. $20 million is fair, maybe a little bit high for that. But for this video, I'm going to go ahead and offer him this deal. And we'll see whether or not he accepts. You can see the bar up there under his name tells you how interested he is. And you might want to change this if you really want to give him a deal and you've gone on for a few weeks and he hasn't accepted it, you can come back and bump it back up. Let me just double back here. I forgot to mention something. The earlier you offer a player a long-term deal, like let's say Volpe, who's only 24, if I offered him an 8-year deal to buy out his arbitration, the 3 years arbitration and 5 years of free agency, I can get that for a little bit less because the arbitration salary is typically less than what he would get in a free agent market for the equivalent level player. So if you have a really good player, let's say you get a generational prospect, a lot of times what I like to do is while they're still on a renewable contract, which we'll get to that in a second, but while they're still on a renewable contract, like as soon as I can, they might be 19 years old, I'll give them like a 10 or 12-year deal because I can save a little bit of money and I know that's somebody I want to bet on. And last thing here, Brian De La Cruz is not really somebody that I want to offer arbitration to. He's not super useful for me. We've got other depth that we can pull from. So if you don't offer somebody arbitration, that's called non-tendering them. and they're just going to become a free agent. And De La Cruz also is eligible for the Rule 5, and I don't really want to add him to the 40-man, so this is the type of guy I might let go. The other option is, because he is on arbitration, he's under team control, you can trade him, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so now on to probably the most annoying and repetitive part of this offseason, which is tendering contracts. So if I click into here, you can see there's a ton of guys whose contracts are renewable, and they might be under slightly different circumstances here, but all these guys are renewable, and there's really two different renewable contracts you're going to see. You're going to see a guy who's on the 40-man like Jason Dominguez, so you can see he's got 2 more years left of a renewable contract. If I were to renew his contract, it's going to be $780,000. That's the minimum. I can't go any lower than that. You could pay him higher than that, but he has to accept the 780, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. On the flip side, if there's somebody who's not on the 40-man, let's go down and look at a prospect here. Okay, that guy's on the 40-man. All right, ERC here. Good pitching prospect for the Yankees. He's not on the 40-man, and he's not eligible for the Rule 5, so he can just be in the minors. So I could renew his contract at the minor league salary, and I can go down to $50,000. I don't have to pay him his previous salary of $60,000. I can just pay him $50,000, and he has to accept this. So I'll submit that offer, and once he's been renewed, you won't be able to continue negotiations. That's fine. So he's done. Now, when I take a look at Jason Dominguez here again and his last season, he had an 882 OPS, and in the outfield out there, he put up 2.5 WAR. He's still young. He's far away from his ceiling. And if you're projecting him well, which there are some good stats here, discipline's good. He's obviously much better against righties. The defense and speed is fine. This might be a guy that I want to bet on long term. Real life Yankee fans, I know you might argue me for that, but humor me for this example. So in that case, kind of like I was talking about during arbitration, I don't just have to renew his contract. I can also make him an offer. And let's say that we want to offer him like an 8-year deal. It shows me how what his ideal salary range is down there. It goes from $800K to $21.8 million in arbitration, 37 free agent available when he becomes a free agent. So obviously going to be pretty expensive. But that's kind of your salary guideline. So if I kept this, let's say I want to give him an 8-year deal, but I kept it at 8 and started to scroll up, it's going to take you forever to get there. So just move that down to 1 and see what it's going to take. So let's start by going to about 15 million here. So just give me a second while I get to 15 million. And let's go to the 8-year deal and see. Okay, so he's in the red. So 15 million a year is not going to do it. Now I'm wondering to myself, how much do I want to pay Dominguez? Do I have room for this in the budget? So I'm going to close out of here, and I'm going to go back to my budget here. And you can see the contracts that we already have on the books. Long-term deals with Judge, Cole, Fried, and Rodon. Our salaries are currently at $204 million, and we only have $31.48 available, which is not a whole lot. We've actually got pretty expensive payroll. It looks like in this game, Bellinger is signed for 26. Obviously, he's a free agent in real life right now. So there are some pretty heavy, long-term, expensive contracts on here, and you can also see in the top right, my arbitration and renewable estimates are $84 million. So we don't have a ton of room here available, and so that makes me not really want to give Dominguez that long-term deal, and I probably am going to need to trade somebody as well to free up some space. So we'll come back to more of that in a minute, but now that I've figured out what I want to do with Jason, I've decided that I'm just going to renew his contract for now, and there we go. So you're going to have to go through and do that for everybody here, which, like I was saying, is kind of tedious, but you may not want to renew everybody's contract. Let's take a look at Jackson Reitz here, catcher who's 62 overall at 30. Not much of a future here, but the thing is, in the bottom right, he's eligible for the Rule 5 draft, and I don't want to add him to the 40-man. So in the case of Jackson Reitz, just like arbitration, I can either just trade him or just let him go, non-tender him. If you're being realistic, he really does not have a whole lot of value, so in a rebuild for me, I probably would just let him go and not renew his contract. So I'm going to work through all of this, and then I'll see you at the next step of the offseason. When you first take over a team in this game, there's going to be quite a few guys that you're not going to want to renew in that first season. That's just the way it typically goes. All these guys are either Rule 5 eligible or just somebody that I don't want to bring back. A lot of relief pitchers typically. So I'll show you during free agency how you can sign a bunch of guys to go ahead and refill your roster, because these guys were filling out the minor league teams, and now we're going to need more guys to take their shoes, since I don't want to renew or bring back any of the guys that you just saw on your screen. So these are all things so far that I've done just on the same day. Going through this offseason, a lot of times I'm going to do the bulk of the work right away. I typically know roughly what I want to do. And so these are some of the more boring parts of the offseason, 40-man ARB and tendering contracts. And let's go to probably the most fun part of the offseason, and that's free agency. Now, before we get to free agency, the question is, what do we need? And there's a couple of ways that you can look at it. You can look at your depth chart for next year. So looking around, it seems like first base is kind of weak. Most spots are pretty solid. You got Bellinger in left, Judge in right, Dominguez really good in this roster in center. Maybe you could look at an upgrade in center, or maybe behind the plate. So kind of looks like center field, first base, and catcher are places for me to improve. And you can scroll along to future years and see, your prospects who will be coming up and taking place of other people, of other current players as well. So you're going to know your team and what your plans are better than I do, but it seems like for me and for the Yankees, I kind of want to zero in on first base and catcher based on the guys that we've got here. So that's what I'll keep in mind as I go to free agency. And also, if I can't fulfill what I need in free agency, I could also do it through the trade market, which we'll come back to. And you can see here, it shows where we're strong and where we're weak. We've got a lot of top 10 positions, but like I said, catcher, first base, and center field are weak. However, even though we're 23rd in center field, our guy out there was Jason Dominguez, and as we kind of talked about earlier, he's got a nice projection, and, it says we're weak there, but I kind of disagree. Defensively, maybe not great. So now as I open up free agency, you're going to see this panel of 3 players. You've got 3 priorities, 3 guys you can have on the board at any given time. If you have just one guy on the board, his desire to join your team is going to be higher than if you fill out all 3. That'll become clear in a moment. Let's go ahead and open this up, and you're going to see all these free agents. It starts you with the top 150 free agents, not by position, just listing them all out here. You can see a few guys are off limits for us because they're asking for too much, including Kyle Tucker, Michael King, and Ranger Suarez. Now, I also want to scroll down a little bit and show you Trent Grisham. You remember we gave him that qualifying offer before, and you can see right in front of his avatar on the top left that it lets you know there was a qualifying offer made. So if we sign Trent Grisham, and let's say he was on a different team, and we signed, let me give you a different example. Who else has one? Zach Gallen. If we sign Zach Gallen and he joins our team, we are now going to lose a draft pick. And that is the pick that the team who gave him the qualifying offer, Arizona, is going to get. Okay, so it's showing the top 150 here. I want to now switch that over to all free agents, and let's go over to catchers, and let's see what our options are. There's not really too good of a catcher class. You have Trevino here, who's pretty strong defensively, and then you have Danny Jansen, who's really good at reaction and blocking, has a little more pop. I don't think either of these guys are massive upgrades over Austin Wells, who we have on a renewable contract. So with that being the case, I'm not as motivated to sign a catcher as I was before. Let's take a look at first base, and there are a couple good options here. First base is one of the cheaper positions. We've got Arias here. It looks like his potential went down, coming off of maybe not the best season. He's absolutely broken in this game, by the way. Contact vision and discipline, and his defense is really good too. We've also got Josh Naylor here. Really nice option. He still has room for growth, a potential 84 overall. I think that's probably my favorite guy. We should be able to afford him. So I'm going to throw Josh Naylor on the board, and now I'm going to go to my positional needs and select first base. And then I'll go to my team needs. I want a left-handed batter, and he's got some good contact. So you can see he's boosted. His motivation is boosted by 2% per week, another 1% for selecting first base. That means his motivation is going to go up 10% every single week. Okay, so we've got him on the board. I know I need first base. And now if I go over to my lineup, I can also see what other positions I might need to fill. And it seems like right now Jason Dominguez is DHing. And I don't hate that because his center field defense is not great. We need to fill first base and center field, so maybe I will go back to the board and look at another free agent, although I did just see that Spencer Jones is up here, but same thing. His defense is probably not good enough for center field. You kind of want those to be over 80, probably want some more speed. So I think we actually might need to get a center fielder, so let's go ahead and look at our options. We go back to all free agents, go over to center field. We have Lane Thomas. That's an option. Trent Grisham, we gave him the qualifying offer, so maybe we want to wait and let's see if he accepts that qualifying offer or not. And then we might look at somebody like Cedric Mullins, who definitely has the defense for center field. Maybe you could go for Michael A. Taylor. The Yankees probably would shoot a little higher than that. Okay, so let's take a look at our pitching rotation, and we've got a ton of starters. A lot of depth here at starter. Cam Schlittler will probably go in the minors, but we have Cole, Fried, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt, and Warren. So we've got 6 good starters. Maybe we want to trade from that depth. But I do know that I'm letting some of these relievers go. They're not gone yet because I haven't fast forward past the guys that I didn't offer contracts to, the guys that I non-tendered. But I know that I'm going to want to bring in a reliever. So I'm going back to free agency. I've got my positional need already set here for reliever. And as I go to relievers, my advice to you is typically you don't really need to shop at the top of the market. You don't really need to pay $9 million for a Danny Kalum, who probably wouldn't sign anywhere. He's regressing. I like to look a little bit lower. You can find guys, kind of in the middle market that have nice stats here. Caleb Ferguson, as a lefty, looks pretty good here. Coming off of a nice year, he's only asking for 1 year at 5. That's a guy that I might throw on the board. Now, you notice when I did that, Josh Naylor's motivation boost is now only going up by 9% per week. So if you have more guys on the board, it's going to lower their motivation. And then I really want to focus. I'm not too worried about Ferguson, but I definitely want to focus on Naylor. So I'm going to leave my team needs both focused on boosting Josh Naylor's motivation. So as we take a look at trading now, still keeping in mind what our needs are, but also the fact that our payroll's pretty high and we're sort of number crunching here. And we have a depth of starting pitching. So maybe I want to trade from that depth and try to find some prospects or maybe a center fielder that can play for us. Although we do want to wait and see what Grisham decides to do. So let's say, for example, I wanted to trade Garrett Cole, and he's pretty expensive. He's getting older. We want to move on from him and try to find a cheaper way and allocate those dollars somewhere else. So there's a couple things you can do. First thing is you can press the square button on your controller and suggest a trade. So if I click all here, it's going to search all the other teams and it's going to suggest trades for me. So I could trade with the Red Sox. I could trade with the Rays here, although that's in division, but I could get Shane Baz. Maybe he could replace Garrett Cole for me, and then I've got a good center field prospect, Theo Gillen. So you can just scroll through, and there's teams will offer you multiple trades. Looks like the Blue Jays will give me Trey Savage, So you can just scroll through here. Luis Robert, this could be our guy right here. Maybe this is who we put in center field. But let me show you that other way in a minute. You can have the CPU suggest you trades. And now, I guess I said I'd show you in a minute. I'm going to show you right now. What I could also do is I want to find a center fielder. So I'm just going to shift to, move over to center field and just kind of flip through here and see who I might want. Maybe I want to put Andy Pages out there. You can see that bar on the top. The Dodgers would be willing to do that. They probably don't need starting pitching at this point. But I could just sort through and decide, okay, maybe I want to go with O'Neal Cruz. He's got 3 more years of team control. Okay, that deal's not gonna work. Maybe I want Jackson Chourio. Okay, that's definitely not gonna work. Makes sense because they've got a fantastic contract for Chourio. So you just kind of work your way through. TJ Friedel would work. The Reds aren't looking for a starter though. I think the best deal for us is Luis Robert Jr., who has still 2 more years left on his contract. He's pretty cheap for being 86 overall, and the White Sox are looking for a starter, so this is a good match. Let's come back to that in a minute while we wait and see what Trent Grisham decides on his qualifying offer. So I'm now going to sim to free agency 2 here, and looks like our coach did not accept our deal, so I would need to go back and look at another coach, but I'm just going to keep simming through that for now, and now we've gone a week, and I can go ahead and look at free agency again here, and you can see that Josh Naylor is very motivated to sign with us. And that makes sense because we've got a hole at first base, and he wants to join a good team. There's nobody blocking him, so he wants to join our team. Now, he's at 64% motivation. Let's say I really, really want him, and I know I'm going to move off some other money. I could go ahead and offer him a deal now, or I could wait another week, and it'll go up 9%. But I think I do want Josh Naylor. That feels like a great fit. And yes, I know in real life he's already a Mariner. Okay, this is just for example for you. Let's say I really want him here, and I want to sign him for 5 years. Let's say I want to go down just a little bit though to $17 million, and you can see how his acceptance, how much he wants it, goes up and down as I change his contract. If I really wanted him, maybe I would way overpay him. But let's go and just offer him 17, and we'll see what happens. And now you can see we're in the competitive balance tax. It shows you the contract here, so that's going to be out there, and Naylor will think about it. Ferguson is not as high of a priority for me, so I'm going to wait for his motivation to go way up, and then I'm probably going to lowball him. Hopefully that works out, and I can show you that later on. So now that I've given him that offer, I'm going to sim to free agency 2 here, And you can see some other free agents coming off the board. And now we're getting a contract decision. So if it's a top 20 or 25 free agent, it's going to go through this little, this little graphic here, and you get the pens. That means that you signed them, and there we go. Naylor, just like that, is on the Yankees. Okay, we also got this update here that Trent Grisham decided to decline the qualifying offer and remain a free agent. We could still go after him in free agency, but let's go back and take a look at the trade market. Okay, so Grisham didn't accept it, so we know we need a center fielder now, and that's because we have Jason Dominguez as our DH. And by the way, normally the Yankees DH would be Giancarlo Stanton, but in this roster, he's heavily regressed and is not really playable anymore, and he's on a huge deal. This could clear up payroll, but in real life, I don't think another team would accept this trade for a guy that's regressed heavily and is expensive like this. So for me, I would leave him on the books to try to simulate real life. But this could be another way to free up payroll. You can kind of take advantage of the CPU in the trade market if you want to do that. I'm not going to tell you what to do, just showing you how to do it. So because we need a center fielder, I'm going to go back to the White Sox, and I want to move off of Garrett Cole and try to, save a little bit of money. So let me go back to the White Sox here and go to Luis Robert Jr. They like that deal, but it might be hard to see, but we actually can throw somebody else in here. Let's say I want this C potential. Let's say I want this C potential left fielder. We can throw him in there, and now I'm going to accept this deal. So after that, if I go and take a look at our budget, you can see we've got a lot more money available. And now this Naylor contract's not going to be an issue, and we've got freedom to do some other things that we might want to do. I don't know if I would actually do that if I was running the Yankees, but I'm just showing you, some different thought processes, and I think that is a pretty fair deal. And if we look at our lineup now, we've got Luis Robert Jr. coming in, and he can go to center field, and we've got Josh Naylor, who's also left-handed, great for Yankee Stadium, coming in to play first base. So we might want to do some things on the bench, but it looks like we've got our lineup pretty much figured out. We also do have a full pitching rotation, so we could run this out next year. Maybe we want to upgrade a little bit off one of these guys, but I think this is a solid rotation overall. You've got Schlittler on the bench. I don't think he would simulate too well. But yeah, we made a few moves here early in the offseason. This is probably the bulk of the video, but I'll just keep going through and continue to show you some other aspects of the offseason as well. The game is going to pop up warnings for you to tell you if you forgot something. It'll say, hey, the deadline to set your 40-man roster is tomorrow. If you need to stop simulating, you can stop simulating. I've already taken care of this, so I'm just going to continue to move through. Okay, now today is the last day to offer salary arbitration for players. I do need to stop here and go back to the arbitration board, and you can see that Chisholm did not accept his offer that we gave him earlier in this video. And the other guy is Luis Heel, so remember I went a little bit below what he wanted, and he did not accept that. So now I don't want to lose these guys. So now we have offered arbitration to Heel, but I have to offer arbitration to Jazz Chisholm. So I've got to go back. Let's see here what is 1 year, 14.5. So I've got to offer him arbitration now. I'm going to offer him at 14, so a little bit below what he wants here. Let me just get to 14. All right, there we go. And because I did want to extend him and he didn't accept the 5-year deal we currently had offered him, let me bump it up a little bit to $104 million, just a little bit. And he can accept either one of those. He could choose to go to the arbitration, or he could accept this long-term extension, which we now have room to do since we traded Garrett Cole. I sim forward another week. It's November 25th, and I see that Jazz Chisholm is no longer on the board, and that means I know that he accepted his extension because the arbitration period is later on. So we've now got him signed for 5 years at that $20.8 million. We're still doing fine on our budget, and we're kind of betting on Chisholm and Naylor to be a new core for us, and moving on from somebody like Garrett Cole. Now let's go take a look at free agency, and it might recommend to you guys that you want to add onto your board. I'm not interested in Jose Quintana, but I am interested in Caleb Ferguson. His motivation's gone up quite a bit, so I'm going to lowball him all the way down as low as I can go. I can't go any lower, and I'm just going to go ahead and give him that offer. And with a smaller free agent, you're not going to get that whole deal with the pens and that kind of, that like slot machine animation. You're not going to get that. So he decided he didn't like his offer. His motivation's gone down a little bit, but again, he's not a high priority guy for me, and I don't mind if I miss him. So now we're going to go back and offer him another deal. So I go back to free agency now, and he's actually gone up to 70% now. I'm just going to keep offering the same thing. There was no other teams interested, and he wasn't super high profile, so again, just going to give him the same lowball deal. So now that all the players who I didn't offer arbitration to or tendering contracts to have left the team, I want to take a look at my roster, and you can see we've only got 66 players. Don't freak out. We need to get quite a bit more because we're not going to have enough guys to fill out like first base. There's nobody who's going to be able to play first base for Double-A right now. So we need to go back to free agency once that opens up and sign a bunch of guys to fill out the roster. We're going to have another decision here for Caleb Ferguson. He's still not interested. And again, there's no rumors for him. There's no other team interested in him. So I'm just going to continue to lowball him with that 1-year deal until he accepts it. And going back to this page again, you can see we've only got 3 right fielders, 4 second basemen, only 4 catchers. We're going to need 6 catchers. We're short on relief pitchers. So now I've got to go back to free agency and sign a bunch of those guys. So let's start with the catcher. If I go to all free agents and then go to catchers and then just start from the very bottom. Now, these are guys that you just need to fill out your roster. You don't need them to be any good. The important thing is that they don't need to be on the 40-man. So you can see Roy Russan here, not eligible for the Rule 5. He was actually drafted last year and not signed by his team, drafted during the simulation. So I'm just going to offer him a 1-year deal. So if I go back to my roster now and I go over to my catchers, you can see, was it Russan? Yeah, Russan that I just signed. He's now catching in AAA, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't need every prospect that I have to have 99 potential. I just need guys to put on a uniform. And the key thing, again, is that they don't take up a 40-man spot. So this is kind of how you keep your 40-man clear. Let's do the same thing again here. See if there's any younger guys that don't need to be on the 40-man roster. I'm just scrolling up. Here's a 22-year-old Alfonso. He is eligible for the Rule 5, so I don't want him. And just looking around, maybe I need to go further down. Back to the bottom, this 19-year-old, I know he's 46 overall. I know he's at potential, but this is just to get guys in the field. So now if I go over to my catchers, we've got our 2 guys in the MLB. Esteban Martin, this might be a guy. He was drafted this past year. This might be a guy that I don't want to impact his development right now. I don't want to throw him into Double-A. So because we only have 1 catcher in Double-A right now, I'm going to go back and find another one to fill out the team. So Jacob Cozart here, not eligible for the Rule 5 draft, so I don't have to add him to the 40-man. So now we filled out our catcher position, and I'm just going to do this for all the positions that I need to fill. Okay, so now that I've done that, you can see my roster total in the bottom right here is 81 players. You can go up to 93, I believe it is, somewhere around there. But I've got enough now that I can field the Major League team, AAA team, and Double-A team, so I'm all set there. We've got another decision for Ferguson. He's still not interested. And I'm going to be persistent. There's still nobody interested. So again, I'm just going to continue to lowball. So we're now in the middle of December, and it's time for the Rule 5 draft. And you can see that it's showing me that I've got 34 players now on my 40-man. So I've got plenty of room to add players in the Rule 5. And if you pick up somebody in the Rule 5 draft, which I'll go to now, you will have to put them onto your 26-man roster. So they will have to play in the majors unless you place them on outright waivers. So you want to pick somebody that you think can actually play for you and help you out. The players here are ordered by their potential if you have it on the all players. If you flip through the positions, it's going to be ordered by their overall. So keep that in mind. Go back to all players. If we didn't bring in Luis Robert Jr., Tyrone Taylor might have been an okay stopgap for us in center. He would have at least played good defense. He has 2 years of team control, but we don't need him. The Rule 5 draft is usually good to find some cheap pitching, either starters or relievers. So we traded Garrett Cole, and I don't think I really believe in Cam Schlittler in this roster, so I want to get a little more depth at pitcher or potential long reliever, and Javier Assad seems like a good option. He's on a very cheap deal, and also take note that he's only got 1 of his 3 minor league options used, which means that we can send him down. As long as his MLB service time is below 5 years, you can send him down. So Javier Assad seems like a very good pickup for us. I could also see myself taking maybe a Matt Waldron here, not a bad pickup, or maybe Jose Urquidy. These are all decent guys. If you've seen any of my one-man only videos, you know that those are guys I like to pick up. And so is Max Lazar here in the bullpen. Even though he's 69 overall, he should have pretty high C potential based on where he is on this all-player menu. He's got all his options left. Pretty cheap guy for the bullpen, and I'm also going to pick up Max Lazar. So this is where you can find some good pitching talent. And by the way, let me go back to the previous screen here. It shows you how much potential he has. So you can see he has 77 potential. So that's it for the Rule 5 draft. I'm going to skip my last selection, and we took 2 players. So now if I go to my pitching rotation, both of these guys are going to be here. So like I said, they're going to have to play, and that way I can send Cam Schlittler down and let him to continue to develop, and Javier Assad could either be a starter or a long reliever, and Max Azar could either be a long reliever with 44 stamina or probably a middle reliever. If you have watched this video from front to end, drop a like. This is a lot to cover. I know if you've gone through and just picked your different sections, that's totally cool. That's what this is for. We're getting close now. The team is really starting to come together, and I'm just kind of quickly finishing through simulating here. Caleb Ferguson has finally accepted his deal. Forget about it. We're still waiting for the arbitration negotiation for Luis Gil. It looks like he's not going to accept his offer. So at this point, I'm going through things pretty quickly. I'm just continuing to simulate all the way through. I've made all the moves that I need to make. I filled out the roster, brought in a nice free agent. And now we finally get our update here that Luis Gil, the panel sided with Gil. So his salary is actually going to be $9.6 million. I think he was asking for 9.1, and you can see why I typically offer them the deal. I didn't offer him a deal that he would have accepted because I only went for $8 million, and now we're paying a little bit more than I probably could have for Luis Gil, but I wanted to show you that for the video. You're going to get another option here before spring training to renew contracts. You're typically not going to have too many to renew contracts, but you might have traded for a player, or maybe you picked up somebody in the Rule 5. So just double check that you don't have anyone here. I don't, so I'm now ready to sim to spring training. So now that we're in spring training, you can still go ahead and look at some free agents who are left over. You can also make contract extensions. So we know that Cody Bellinger is going to be leaving after this year, at least for this game. In real life, he's already up for free agency. But let's say I wanted to offer him another 5 years. This is where I can do that. Same thing with any of these other players. You can still continue to trade here, and the other thing you can now do is go to training. So maybe you want to take a look at some of the players you just drafted or something like that. Let me try to find somebody in here. So here we go. Harold Pohl, I drafted him. The CPU drafted him. And let's say I want to work on his clutch. I could just flip through here and work on his clutch, and you could do that ahead of spring training. Okay, so this part is important. I know this is at the end of the video, so I hope you're hearing this. I would not sim to the regular season right here. I would go through this part manually because it's going to make some roster decisions and either cut or waive some players that you might not want to do that for. So I'm just manually pressing triangle to get to the end of spring training. And now if I go over to my roster, you can see in the MLB there are 37 players right now, and you can only have 26. So that means I need to send down 11 players. So I'm not going to show you all of that, but let me show you for the starting pitchers. I know that Javier Assad has to be here, but I don't need Cam Schlittler up right now. We've got 7 starters in the majors, so I'm going to move him down to AAA. He's got plenty of his options, and he can continue to develop there. Anybody who's on the 40-man roster is now going to be in the majors right now. So Francisco Vilorio here, I don't want him in the majors yet, so I'm also going to move him to AAA, and I also don't know if I need Spencer Jones right now, but I guess I'll leave him up for now. But yeah, basically you've got to go through and manually make your decisions. You remember this guy from way back in the beginning of the video, I actually want him to be in AA. I protected him so that we wouldn't lose him in the Rule 5 that we just saw. And for example, that starting pitcher, Harold Pohl, that we just saw in training, I've got him in single A because he's only 56 overall right now. For more information on this, take a look at my training and player development video. But I don't want him to play any games, so he's going to be in single A. And yeah, long story short, I'm basically setting up all 3 of the lineups now, all 3 of the rosters, my majors, my AAA, and my AA. And I'm doing this manually. I'm not letting the CPU make this decision. I think that's very important. Now, I've run into a situation here where I've got 14 pitchers on my roster, and you can only have 13, and I want to send somebody down, but I don't want to send any of these good players down. I think the guy that I would want to send down maybe is Ian Hamilton, but you can see that he's out of Major League options. 3 of 3 have been used. So I've got 2 options for Ian Hamilton. I can trade him. I'm still able to do that, but for the purposes of the video, I'm going to go ahead and designate him for assignment. And that means he's going to go to waivers. So I can still trade him for 7 days, but he will be removed from the 40-man and active roster. And now I'll be down to 13 pitchers. I can also just straight up release him if I want to, or try to send him just to outright waivers to AAA. Let's go ahead and do that. So we've waived Ian Hamilton because I need to get him off our 26-man roster. Okay, so at the top right there, I'm now down to 26 active players, and that means I'm ready to advance a day here, and now we are finally back to another regular season. You can see why at the beginning of this video I said it could be overwhelming. There's a lot to do, but if you follow the tips and the advice I give you in this video, kind of just break it down by parts, you should be able to get through it no problem. And so going into next year, here is the Yankees lineup. We've added Josh Naylor here. We added Luis Robert Jr., a couple good additions. On the pitching side of things, we saved some money. We've still got two good pitchers and lefties here in Fried and Rodon. We've also got Javier Assad, who will play pretty well. Just trust me, good stats here, so he could come into the rotation. And we've got our bullpen all lined up here. Things are looking good. I'm happy with this. Ferguson as our lefty. And yeah, we probably could use another lefty in the bullpen, but that's something you could trade for during the season. And that's going to do it. That is it for this video. If you find this helpful, helps me out a lot if you drop a like, drop a comment. If you have any questions, I will answer all of them in the comments below. That is it for this guide. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and peace.